Locking on, and locked on. Hello, welcome to a completely brand new collection video. So this time it is on my Big Finish sort of stuff. Now I don't really own a lot for Big Finish. I've got like 3 CD box sets, a limited edition CD sort of thing, which I'll show you in a bit. Some single CDs, and of course I got about 3 vinyls. Now back in the late 90s, there was no Doctor Who content on the telly because the show was cancelled, so the BBC gave the license to Big Finish for audio adventures. Now I would like to say I would actually love to see these audio adventures somehow get the animation treatment like some Doctor Who stories are, so we can actually have them released in Steelbook Blu-rays or on DVD wise, and then we can actually have the actual Big Finish stuff into the TV universe as canon. So sit there with your jelly baby, sonic screwdrivers, your weird coloured coats, and I will sit there and I'm going to sit here and tell you what I've got on Big Finish and what I personally think of them. So I've actually got 3 separate piles for this video. I've got me single DVDs, me single CDs, me CD box sets, me special limited edition book thing, and me vinyls. So, what do I own on the separate CDs? So, the first thing I own, now this one is from a Tom Baker season. Now this is from series 6 on the audio, when they used to do this like separately. It is the Mavell Engrave. Now, this story takes place in between the Leisure Hive and just after Shada. What can I tell you about this one? The Mavellans was introduced way back in Destiny of the Daleks in the season prior, and the Mavellans were good. So in this, the Mavellans power pack is discovered by archaeologists in the 1980s. So, a Mavellan ship is actually buried under the ground since the robotic enemy have been making their way to the surface, but they're not the biggest threat to the humans. This is basically a really good, interesting story. The Mavellans, believe it or not, have actually got a weapon to try and destroy the Daleks completely, and it's actually underneath the Earth's power core when they crash landed. Now, this one is a very interesting story. I absolutely love it. Tom Baker, Leona Ward are on top notch. The only thing about this, there's no K9. K9's not featured in this story, which is, I think, is a really bit of a downer, because I would like to see K9. So the next one I've got is a Peter Davison. Now this one is called The Toy. Now this one is a companion chronicle. It's read by Sarah Sutton. Now this one has the 5th Doctor on Gallifrey fighting against Roger Delgado's master and Anthony Ainley, and this is 100% okay of a good story. Sarah Sutton really reads the story out really well and absolutely fantastic. So the next one I've got is a Colin Baker. Now this one is set as a sequel and a prequel. It's a sequel to Revolution of the Daleks and a prequel to Remembrance of the Daleks. So at the end of Resolution of the Daleks take Davros to Skaro to be put on trial. So the next story is actually called Doctor Who: The Juggernauts. Now this one is set in between season 23 and season 25. But I would actually like to say it's set in between season 23 and season 24, because you've got Davros, played by Terry Malloy, and he's created these creatures. Now these, you would think that they're mechanoids, but they're not. Davros has created them and to call them a Juggernauts. And he also creates the Remembrance Daleks. Now the 6th Doctor and Mel basically stumble across him while they're travelling on Davros, and when they find out Davros has created a new race of Daleks, plus Mel gets kidnapped by Davros, so the Doctor's got to go and rescue Mel, and he's got to try and deal with the whole situation. It's an absolutely fantastic story. Colin Baker and Terry Malloy are fantastic as the Doctor and Davros. Bonnie Langford as Mel, again's okay, but I really don't like her that much. I actually prefer her with... Well, I don't really mind her with Colin Baker. I actually don't like her with Sylvester McCoy. But in the audio adventure, she is a lot better. So the next one I've got is Terror of the Santarans. Yay! The 7th Doctor meets the Santarans. Now this one, I think it takes place in between season 20, like somewhere in between the stories of season 24. Because this has the 7th Doctor and Bonnie Langford. Now Bonnie Langford's character Mel left the 7th Doctor at the end of Dragonfire. So this story is set somewhere just before Dragonfire. The 7th Doctor and Mel have got to go and battle against Santarans. And the Santarans are literally played by Dan Starkey, who plays Strax in the new era of Doctor Who. This one is an absolutely fantastic. I do love it. The 7th Doctor against Santarans is something that we should have had on screen, but unfortunately never did. I would love for them to return. So that is it for the single CDs, apart from one more. Now this one is right at the end with the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th Doctors and 8th against the Master with a few companions. Now this is a really actually enjoyable story. I absolutely love it. In this one you have Leela travelling with the 4th Doctor. You have Nyssa travelling with the 5th Doctor. Now the Doctor and Nyssa, this is somewhere in between Time Flight and Arc of Infinity. Somewhere in between them in the Doctor's timeline. The 6th Doctor is travelling in Mal with is travelling with Perry, so that is somewhere in between season 21 or season 23, because they travel until season 23. Ace again, now this is somewhere in between the 7th Doctor's era, between just after season 26 and the TV movie. It's absolutely lovely. I really do like it. It's a really good multi-Doctor story, especially when you have the 8th Doctor meeting up with the 4th Doctor. It's really quite interesting storyline. So into the box set. So I'm going to be talking about these box sets really one at a time, these CDs. So the very first one is called Classic Doctors and New Monsters. Now I absolutely love this because you've got Tom Baker fighting against the Fashion Armada, the 5th Doctor with the Rakhnos, the 6th Doctor against the Carry Knights, and of course the 8th Doctor by Fashion Armada again. But this time the Fashion Armada are very, very different, and I will tell you about that by the time I get to it. So the next one is called Doctor Who, The Night of the Fashion Armada. Now this, I actually feel this one takes place in between the Deadly Assassin and the Face of Evil, because the 4th Doctor is basically on his own. So, and that's in Doctor Who, like in the TV wise, that's the only time the Doctor basically travels on his own. So with the Doctor visiting a fun fairground, he stumbles across humans that have come to rescue some people that have been eaten by the Fashion Armada. Now this one is a 10 out of 10 completely, but I'll tell you that a bit more later on, because I absolutely do love the story. The Fashion Armada are a really good threat in the audios. I absolutely do love it. So the next one is called Empire of the Rakhnos. And now this one is very confusing because I don't know where it takes place in the 5th Doctor's timeline, because in this one the 5th Doctor has got no companions, but in the era he's had a load. He's either travelling with Adric, Nyssa and Tegan, or Nyssa and Tegan, or Nyssa, Tegan and Tarlo, or Tarlo and Tegan and Chameleon. So in this one he has no companions, so I don't know where it's actually set in his timeline. But of course we are entered into a war that the Time Lords are fighting against the Rakhnos. So the Rakhnos were introduced way back in 2006 story, The Runaway Bride. I absolutely do love this story, and it has the return of Andor, the woman who played the Rakhnos, the woman who played the Empress of the Rakhnos basically returns and lends a voice to the role again. And this time we have the old Rakhnos Emperor / Hadrex, played by Neil Freeman. Now this one is an absolutely dream to listen to. The 5th Doctor is on top notch. Now, in this one, instead of the 10th Doctor just decided to kill the Rakhnos, the 5th Doctor is trying to save the Rakhnos. And it's an absolutely kind of good dilemma story. I mean, look at that one. You've got a good picture of the Rakhnos there. So the next one is called Doctor Who, The Curse of Carry Knights. Now, this one is Colin Baker on his own. So I don't know, there again, I don't know where this one's set, because Colin Baker basically travels with Mal, Perry and the little shape-shifting penguin, Frobisher, in the comics and in Big Finish. So I don't know where he travels on his own, this one is the weakest story of this set. I don't really like it that much. But the one thing I have to say about it, the Carrier Knights are a lot better in this than they were in the Shakespeare Code in 2007. I actually do love them in this. And it explains how the Doctor knew them in the Shakespeare Code, where he goes, "Oh yes, 14. I name you Carrier Knight." And if the Sixth Doctor encountered the Carrier Knights, you kind of know where the Doctor knows them from. And it's a little cool sort of prequel to the Shakespeare Code I really like. So the next one is called The Day of the Fashion Armada. Now this one is set during the Time War, and the Time Lords have created their own version of the Fashion Armada. Now this one is really okay because it's a good story, and it actually shows how deadly the Time Lords are going to be to create a deadly version of the Fashion Armada. It actually proves how far the Time Lord's willing to go to try and destroy the Daleks by creating a different kind of lot of the Fashion Armada. Now, I absolutely do love that one. So the next box that I got in order-wise, now this one is a Doctor on his own. It is Doctor Who, the 8th Doctor, Time War 1. Now, I absolutely do love this box set. I do want to get the other ones like Time War 2, Time War 3, Time War 4. I do actually want to go and listen to them. So we have the starship of Frustus. Doctor and his companion Shiggy land the TARDIS on the spaceship. Now this one is a really cool one because with the Time War escalating, the Doctor gets caught in the time wins the Time War. His companion changes. Basically, his companion changes in this to another person, and of course, as the Time War wages on, timelines change. In this one, you have a renegade Time Lord hidings, and then the Time Lords are after him, and of course, the Daleks are after the renegades. But at the end of this story, the spaceship crash lands and leads into the next one where they think they've got a good Dalek, but the Dalek turns evil again because something to do with the planet atmosphere. The Doctor gets separated from his companion, and at the end he gets caught by the Time Lords, and then he gets taken to a Time Lord training camp. Now this one is another good story for Paul McGann. It's a really good Time War story. I absolutely do love listening to the 8th Doctor in the Time War. Now in this, the 8th Doctor is trying his hardest to run away from the Time War. And it's really good and interesting how the 8th Doctor's like, "No, I'm not fighting the Time War, I'm the Doctor. I want to help people, not fight it." And the Time War's like, "Shut it, you're fighting." So the next one is the conscript. So in here, the Doctor is put into a Time Lord prison camp to try and train them all to fight in the Time War. The Doctor being the Doctor, well, he escapes and carries on trying not to fight the war. He tries to run away from the Time War. This one is One Life, and now this one is actually okay. As all the full force of the Time War crashes down around the Doctor, despite a desperate battle for salvage ends, even the Doctor, surrounded by Daleks on a terrorist planet, only one man can save the day, but he does not want to fight it. So in this, the Doctor does not want to fight the Time War, and the Daleks are all surrounding him, so the Doctor's trying to run away. So the next box set I got for Big Finish is the last box set to feature John Hurt before he passes away as the War Doctor. And it is Casualties of War. Now this one sees Louise Jameson reprise her role as Leela. So Leela basically travels with the 4th Doctor because of the Time War that she stayed on Gallifrey. She had the Time Lords fighting the Time War. And of course she encounters the War Doctor. You have Pretty Liars, which basically is an okay story, and you got a kind of younger version of a Time Lord. The Daleks are this is where the Daleks are putting full-scale attack on the Time War. You'll have the Lady of Abyssium with Louise Jameson and John Hurt. And of course we have the Dimension, something like that. It's a really good story. Now this is the last story to feature John Hurt as the War Doctor. I still want to listen to his other ones first because this is all a continuing series really for the War Doctor. So I do really need to get the others because this is the 4th one, and because I've not listened to any of the others, I I was a little bit confused. This is the first time, but it's actually enjoyable, and as it's my only first War Doctor Big Finish. So the next one I've got is a limited edition book box set, and it is the Sixth Doctor's Last Adventure. Now this has 4 stories in it, which is Light at the End, The Red House, Stage Fright, and Blink of Disaster. I absolutely do love this box set, and the way it all leads into the Sixth Doctor battling against the Valeyard. The CD's in here, by the way. And you have like a good lot of information here about making the audio, and of course you have the Sixth Doctor and then regenerating into his 7th persona, played by Cecil McCoy. Now this is a really good finale for Colin Baker. All 4 stories are connected, so this is a bit like Trial of a Time Lord. The Doctor's got to battle against the Valeyard. Now the Valeyard is in all of this. The Valeyard is in all of this. He's like in 2 major stories, but he's actually in like hiding in the other 2 stories. And this way, where the Sixth Doctor basically re-encounters Jacko and Lightfoot from the talents of Wing Chiang. I absolutely do love this. I will give you my personal ranking for this one later on. So for the finals, which I've got, we have this one. I've actually kept in a clear plastic casing, and this one is called Wave of Destruction. This has Tom Baker, Liana Ward, and John Leeson as the Doctor, Romana, and K9. Now this one basically takes place in between. I think it takes place in between the City of Death and Creature from the Pit in season 17, because this is basically a season 17 story. But I would actually like to say this one, I do think it's either that one or it takes place in between Destiny of the Daleks and City of Death, because Romana is still wearing her costume from Destiny of the Daleks in this. Now this one with MI5 agent Lancaster, this is basically a really good story, and I really got to enjoy it. It's a really good story. If you haven't listened to this, I would suggest listening to it, because it's not as bad as people say. Because I used to read before I got this. My mum and dad got me this for Christmas, just gone. I read the reviews about it, thinking I don't really want to listen to it, because the reviews were saying that it's bad. Even though I've looked it up on YouTube as well, I watched some of other people's thoughts on it, and they said it's bad. Me, on the other hand, I absolutely do love it. It's a really good, enjoyable story for Big Finish. It's just one of my personal favourites. So the next one is a Paul McGann one called Maxwell. Now this one where the Doctor travels with Lucy Miller, played by Sarah Jane Smith, who I know from 2 Points to Log and a Packet of Crisps, one of my favourite comedies. I would actually like to see her play Lucy Miller as the companion to the 8th Doctor completely in TV screen, because their dynamic is really good to each other and absolutely fantastic. The story isn't really that good, but to sit down and listen to it, because I think this is somewhere in between, somewhere in the 8th Doctor's timeline, just before the Time War and just before Dark Eyes. I absolutely do love this story. Max Warp is a really good, interesting story. So the next one I've got on final. Now this one is the only modern story I've got. Now this takes place somewhere in between series 4, I think, and it is called Doctor Who: Death and the Queen, the only 10th Doctor audio. Now I love series 4 completely. Catherine Tate and David Tennant's dynamic as the Doctor and Donna is absolutely fantastic, and it's really enjoyable. The Doctor, Donna is basically pretending to be a queen, and they've got to try and defeat death itself. So that is it for my Big Finish collection. So how do I rank each of these stories? So I'm going to do this in a totally different way. So I'm going to do the box sets, then the single CDs, then the Colin Baker stuff, and then the final. So for Classic Doctor's New Monsters, Knights of the Fashion Armada is 10 out of 10. The Empire of the Rakhnos is 10 out of 10. The Cameronite Curse is a 1 out of 10 because it's not really enjoyable, but it's good for Colin Baker's performance. And the Day of the Fashion Armada is a 8 out of 10. I absolutely do love it. So for the Time War 1, the Starship Pharos is a 10 out of 10. Echoes of War is 10 out of 10 because I absolutely love it. The Conscript is a 1 out of 10 because that is just a really bad mashup between Dad's Army and Doctor Who. And One Life is a 5 out of 10. I don't really enjoy that one that much. Casualties of War, as I say, I need to listen to the other ones because I really get a bit confused as I start into this one. But from what I've listened to, Pretty Lies is 10 out of 10. The Lady of Obsidian is 10 out of 10. And the Engineer of Dimensions is a really good, interesting one, and that's a 10 out of 10. So for the single releases, the Mavell Engrave is basically a 10 out of 10. The Toy is a 5 out of 10. The Juggernauts, 10 out of 10, because I absolutely do love that one. Tale of the Sam Torrence, 10 out of 10. And of course, Light at the End's 10 out of 10. So that is mainly it, really, for the CD-wise. Well, kind of. Like, proper kind of, sort of-ish. The Sixth Doctor's Last Adventure. Now, all of this is 10 out of 10. I don't find a fault with any of these stories. I absolutely love how it leads up to Colin Baker's regeneration from the 6th Doctor to the 7th. And, of course, it leads nicely into... Where is it? Especially where the Blink of Death leads straight into Time and the Rani. So it's a really good regeneration story, and the way it leads into Time and the Rani is absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely do love it. And I was thinking of putting this in between my DVDs, like after Trial of a Time Lord and Time and the Rani, but it's a Big Finish story. I'm putting it with my Big Finish stuff. So for the finals, I'm going to say this. The Waves of Destruction, I'd say, is a 5 out of 10. Although I do enjoy it, but it's still not very much an okay story. It seems like pretty weak for season 17. Max Warp is 10 out of 10. I love it. I love the chemistry between the Doctor and Lucy Miller, played by Sarah Jane Smith. I absolutely do love those two dynamics. I really wish we would have seen these two as the Doctor and companion in the TV adventure. And of course, Death of the Queen is a 10 out of 10. So that is it for my Doctor Who Big Finish collection. I have got a few more stuff I do want to get for Big Finish. I want to finish the Time War stuff off. I want to finish the War Doctor stuff off. I want to get all the Dark Eyes stuff, because Dark Eyes, from what I've read online on the reviews, and of course a few people on YouTube, Dark Eyes is supposed to be really, really good, and really, it's supposed to be epic, even though it has Alex McQueen's version of the Master in it. I absolutely love it, and all the other stuff with the past Doctors I do want to listen to. So thank you for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe and share to my channel, and I hope you all have a very good day. Please stay safe out there. Stay in your TARDISes, because we never know what's out there, especially if there's an antimatter creature trying to pull us into the antimatter universe. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.